President Trump halting Obamacare subsidies to insurers. In a statement last night, the White House said that, quote, it cannot lawfully make the cost-sharing reduction payments. President Trump tweeted this morning. The Democrats, Obamacare is imploding. Massive subsidy payments to their pet insurance companies has stopped. Dems should call me to fix. He went on to say that Obamacare is a broken mess. He says, piece by piece, we will now begin the process of giving America the great health care that it deserves. This coming as President Trump signed an executive order yesterday on promoting health care choice and competition. Joining me right now is Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. Mr. Secretary, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you, Maria.
So in the past, you've said that health care reform is a precursor to tax reform. I want to talk about that. But first, let's talk about this measure last night from the White House, this executive order in terms of health care and allowing it to go to buy health care over state lines. Why did the president do this?
Well, the larger the group that buys health care in one lump, the lower the premium. So it's a way to help small businesses get the economies of scale of big businesses. It's a very, very powerful tool.
Do you think this leads you closer to tax reform? The American people want to see tax reform. We know that, Secretary Ross. Do you think this can get done this year?
Well, I certainly hope so. But I think this health care reform is a good thing in any event, because that affects all kinds of people, and it affects especially small businesses and their employees. So it's very, very good all the way around. And I think it does help move things forward for tax reform.
Yeah, the president really wanted to get something done on health care. I mean, I know he's been frustrated with the fact that there was a real inability to get it across the finish line a couple of weeks ago.
Right. Well, the president's very clever. Things that he can't get through the Congress, he's been very good at figuring out ways to do by executive order. And this is yet another example of how clever that move is.
And we are expecting, actually, the president to sort of push the Iran deal onto Congress as well, that he may decertify that. Is that what we should expect later today?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of the president. We'll know soon enough just what he's going to do.
All right. So the president is going to talk about this later. We'll wait for the details there. A lot of expectation that we will see a decertification, but we'll wait on that. Secretary Ross, I'm going to switch gears here. You recently visited China. You met with officials to talk about trade relations. China, obviously the world's second largest economy, has strong trading ties with Iran as well. The reported total trade volume between the two countries reaching $31.25 billion last year. Tell us about China and how that impacts the Iran deal.
Well, China has been very helpful to us so far in North Korea. We'll have to see how they react to whatever it is the president comes out with later on today.
Well, you've had real success in terms of making people understand, putting other countries on notice that you want fair trade. What do you want to see out of China right now?
Well, the big meeting that will occur in a couple of weeks, hopefully we'll have some very finite deliverables, some good sales for American companies, and that'll be a good start.
And what about Mexico and Canada? Secretary Ross, how should we expect NAFTA to change?
Well, NAFTA has been a very unfair deal for the United States, and all these small changes that we're proposing to it are all intended to add up to a material reduction in our trade deficit with them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of people wonder if it's really Mexico the issue or Canada. I mean, you've joined me before and said, look, there's not really much to do in the Canada part of this. It's really the unfairness of the Mexico side. Is that still a fair statement?
Well, we do have an overall trade deficit with Canada, but it is somewhat smaller in absolute terms, and it's also smaller as a percentage of the total trade. So the bigger problem is the Mexican side.
And what do you want to see change there?
Well, there are a lot of things. We're talking about changing the rules of origin, namely how much of the material in an overall automobile can come in from outside NAFTA. The truth is, you might have seen the editorial I ran in the Washington Post a few weeks ago, of cars coming in from Mexico, only about 15% of their content is U.S., and a lot more than that comes not even from Mexico, but from outside Mexico, and that's been outside NAFTA. That's why we have to change the rules of origin.
Yeah, and you really see this. I mean, you know this firsthand. You were a businessman before going to Washington, and you, as a businessman, really saw the issues of trade and how it impacts, at the end of the day, American companies. So why is this so important? Explain to the audience why this actually needs to change.
Well, here's why it needs to change. The whole idea of the free trade zone was to build up total sales within it and the portion of sales that went to each country. What's really happened is that sales have left our side, gone to factories in Mexico, and now are even moving outside of Mexico to Southeast Asia. That's not the purpose of a trade agreement.
Yeah, and not only that, but because NAFTA was such an important deal, did it become a template for other deals? You know, that's the problem, because all of a sudden companies knew that, oh, I can put a production facility in Mexico and hire a lot more people at lower levels. So everybody decided, yeah, why not do that and then just sell into America, right?
Sure. Well, the thing is, corporate America can put factories wherever they want, but Mr. and Mrs. America are not so mobile. They're the ones who are being hurt by the whole thing, and they're the ones President Trump is determined to help.
Yeah. Did anything come out of that meeting with the Canadian President, Justin Trudeau, on Wednesday in terms of the future of NAFTA? Did you make changes, or was this just a meeting to discuss what you're already knee-deep in?
That particular meeting that I was at with the President and with Prime Minister Trudeau focused on other issues.